Alright, this is John Cole with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and today we're going to talk about something you probably never thought you'd hear about on my show, goat milk. As you guys can see, we got a goat here. That's the goat named what?
Camille.
Camille. And goats like banana leaves. I like banana fruits, but goats like banana leaves. And next to me we have Jeremy, my friend that I've known for many years. He's actually been into a raw diet for the last 22 years, and for 20 of those years he was strict raw vegan. I mean, this guy's been doing raw food for longer than me. I look up to this guy. He had probably the first raw vegan restaurant in Maui back in like the early 1990s, before it was even thought about. And I always read about the raw experience, and I wanted to go there when I first became raw, but I didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't get over to Maui to try it, so I never got to eat the food at the restaurant. Man, but he's a cool guy. But one of the things that he did recently, in the last couple years, is he started including some goat products into his diet. And I was like, oh, what's going on, man? So that's why we're going to talk with him today to learn more about this and find out about this. And I know, many of you guys out there watching this might be vegans, and I want you to guys have an open mind, because, he was 20 years as a raw vegan and something changed. So I want you guys always to be open to learning new information, and don't ever fit or confine yourself in a little small box based on a label, based on a raw foods label, based on being a vegan label, or any label that you're going to put on yourself. So let's go ahead and sit down and chat with Jeremy a little bit. All right, so now we're going to ask Jeremy some questions about his raw vegan diet, that he did for 20 years until he started eating some animal products. And Jeremy, why did you originally become a raw vegan and so adamant for 20 years about this?
Well, originally, a lot of it had to do with animal activism. A lot of it had to do with me wanting to just be kind to nature, and me wanting to step away from mainstream programming and from a lot of the industrialization that was going on within the marketplace of food that I saw. And so I was kind of revolted by killing of animals for food and profit, and dairy products and honey and eggs and all that seemed to go right along with it. So I really stepped away from it, and as I learned more and got closer to nature, I wanted to eat more fruit from the trees. I wanted to live in Hawaii and be closer to my food sources and pick things that I was eating. And so those kind of things really got me into it. And I lived with Ann Wigmore and lived with a bunch of people that were really into raw food, and all of a sudden it became my world. I felt it was such an important thing. I wanted to share it with everyone. I even went to opening a restaurant and writing a book about it.
That's awesome. Yes, so he was super committed to raw foods. I'm on his 30-acre farm. He has plenty of fruit trees and herbs and leafy greens, all kinds of cool stuff growing, including a cool cannonball-shaped papaya that I've never seen in my life before. This guy's really into this stuff. He's had the farm, been eating some of the best produce, but then he started including some dairy products. Like, what happened, Jeremy?
Well, what happened was that after about 16 or 17 years, I had gotten an injury, which was rare for me, but I did a lot of martial arts and a lot of yoga, and I had ruptured one of the discs in my spine. And so I began trying every way I could to heal it, and I had a lot of issues. I noticed that my body wouldn't heal rapidly enough, that I, get different treatments, body work, or I would try different things that I could do as far as raw food products would go. None of it was really giving me that healing for the nerves that I needed to stop the pain that I was in. I spent 3 years in pretty extreme pain, and finally I was like, you know what, I want to see if maybe dairy is something that might help me. I, had dreams about it. I started having dreams about eating dairy, about dairy animals. I'd go to friends' houses, there'd be goats right next door on the fence, and I'd really feel drawn to them. So I had this big connection all of a sudden with all these dairy animals that I'd never had. In fact, even growing up, I rarely drank milk. I might have eaten ice cream or cheese on pizza or something. I was never a big milk person. But I had this real attraction for it, and the goat came into my world. I went to see a friend, and he was like, I need help me catch this goat, let's milk this goat. And we milked this goat with this guy, and I'm like, okay, I'll milk this goat with you. And the next day he's like, the goat screamed since you left, it's your goat, you have to have this goat, it wants to live with you. And he brings it out here to the farm and drops it off, and so all of a sudden I have this goat. I don't know what to do. I'm milking this goat. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna drink the milk. And it was so soothing to me. Now, a lot of people, like myself, a lot of people were never breastfed. And so I think that may have been part of it too, that there was something in it I was really missing and I needed. Because when I got into it for about 2 years, and my body loved it. For those 2 years, I was like way into it. I was drinking a quart, maybe 2 quarts a day.
Wow.
If I didn't have goats of my own that were milking, I was getting it from like the Amish, or I would get cheese from these monks in Portugal that were like silent monks hand making sheep cheese from these wild merino sheep that were there. I mean, I got way into the dairy thing for a couple years.
Let's stop there, Jeremy, for a second. You know, I know some of you guys might be thinking like, but did he try water fasting? Because I heard water fasting, you know, that heals all your ails. Your body will heal when you get out the way. I mean, did you try water fasting? I mean, what modalities did you try before you went? I mean, dairy was not his first choice. He tried so many different things. What are some of the things you tried to let people know out there, you know?
I got way into sesame oil for a while. A lot of people told me sesame oil would fix it, and sesame seeds because of the calcium, so I thought that would be something that would be way beneficial. I tried, you know, using comfrey mostly externally. It's not safe to use it internally. I got deep into the comfrey work. I still work a lot with comfrey, and I'm a huge fan of comfrey.
Yes, it's in your garden.
Yeah, I have a lot in the garden here. And yeah, I got into water fasting. I've always been a big water fasting person. I've been a big fan of that. But that's for removing. You know what I mean? It's like Ann Wigmore, my teacher, she say there's only 2 diseases in the whole world: poor assimilation or poor elimination. Either we're not getting what we need, or we can't get rid of something that we don't want. Well, fasting is perfect. You got to get rid of something that you don't want. You got a virus, you got, you know, strange bacteria, you got candida, you got heavy metal poisoning, you got chemicals and toxins. Water fasting, perfect. It'll get rid of all that stuff. But how do you get what you need when you're water fasting? You don't. And my body wasn't receiving what it needed. It needed something on a major dosage, on a major high level to fix the nerve damage, because I damaged the nerve so badly by rupturing the disc inside my spinal column and the vertebrae fusing together. I was supposedly not going to be able to walk ever again. And I'm back doing Ashtanga and doing martial arts and doing everything. So, you know, it really obviously worked, but I tried so many things. I tried, you know, different types of, like, you know, increasing my protein, increasing my fat, increasing my green intake, green juice fasting, you know, fruit fasting, coconut water, eating tons of coconut meat, you know, but none of it was giving me what my body really needed. What it got from that dairy was a direct rebuild. A rebuild of a lot of my base cellular structure that I needed to fix in my nerves, in my back, and in my spinal column, that I wasn't getting through the regular digestive process. I had energy, I felt okay, but I was in pain, and I couldn't figure out how to fix it. And so, you know, the dairy ended up being the thing. And I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm sure there might be other ways out there. But along my path, after 3 years of pain and disability, that was what I chose. That was like, hey, this worked. It came into me, started working, and it worked well until it did.
And it didn't. So yeah, keep that in mind. So, you know, I want you guys to be open, because I know you hardcore vegans are going to, you know, if you're a hardcore vegan, answer this question, right? If you're going to be, you know, in pain forever for the rest of your life, or you had to, you know, drink goat milk out of your own goats that you raised totally compassionately, you took care of just like they were your pet dog or cat, you know, would you drink it? I mean, that's the question. I mean, if there's no other way to heal. And Jeremy, I mean, when he says he tried for 3 years, I mean, this is a smart guy right here. I mean, I don't look up to too many people in the raw foods movement because some of them are kind of loony. But, you know, I appreciate Jeremy because he's a smart guy. He knows what's up, and I'm confident that he's tried so many different things, you know. And so, Jeremy, what do you think was in the dairy specifically that your body needed, or can you just not explain? It's just something was in there, and I took it and I felt better.
Well, I mean, some people say that the like fat and protein that are in there help coat the myelin sheathing on the nerves, and that it does that as babies are even growing. So I think there's something to that. A lot of it was like the life force and feeling, I think part of it was feeling that nurtured. You know, I think a big part of it was just like that sunrise, sunset ritual with the animal. It loved me and wanted to give me the milk. There was no like question, there was no forcing it, there was no needing to chase it, you know what I mean? It showed up there and wanted to share with me. In fact, when I finally tried to stop making that goat give milk, I'm like, you're giving for a long time, let's like wrap. She didn't want to stop, she still wanted to share with me. I mean, that goat really like cared for me. And so I felt like that was really a big part of it. The goat caring for me and the goat wanting to nourish and nurture me really helped a lot in the healing process in a big way. But as far as nutrition goes, yeah, it was the fat. It was definitely a fat that I wasn't getting anywhere else from any other foods that I was eating. From the plant-based fats, I just couldn't get that level, like I said, of like rebuild. I could maintain fantastically on fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables I could maintain and keep going and doing and living, but with actual damage and needing to heal my body, I wasn't healing fast enough for my body to recover for me to do. Maybe if I had like not had to do anything, never had to get up, and I could have just laid there and meditated for years, maybe my body would have on vegetables recovered the same way. But the dairy seemed to be what was necessary for me, and like I said, it really worked. And I had such a relationship to it too that I really began to think about it and saying, listen, I'm importing sesame seeds from the mainland or from India. I'm importing oils. I'm trying to, get all these foods that I don't even have here. When I have a goat in my backyard, I don't have to go anywhere. And so it made a lot of sense to me to have the milk that this goat was offering me with love. And I was giving it food and banana leaves and tea leaves and all the things that it loved. And so we had this special relationship, and it healed me. And sometimes life's like that. Sometimes grandma heals us with her chicken soup, and it's not the chicken or the soup really, but it's often grandma's love. So that may be been a part of it. But a lot of people do, like I said, say that the fat and protein in there is just right for rebuilding the myelin sheathing and rebuilding the sheathing for the brain and for the nervous system, so that my spine was able to heal and the disc was able to reposition itself correctly and my body was able to walk again.
Wow. So let's talk about, because you said it's probably something about the proteins or the fats. I mean, what other kind of fats did you try? Did you try essential fatty acids, omega-3s, omega-6s? What about DHA and EPA and all this kind of stuff? Did you try those kind of things?
Well, I wasn't doing too many extracted things at the time. I mostly was focused on whole foods. So, flax seeds, tons of flax seeds, tons of chia seed, avocados. I was eating 8 or 9 avocados a day. I was eating, a pound of macadamia nuts. So eating all these things for me was fantastic, but at the same time, too much. It was too much food and too much for my body to process. 4 ounces of milk and I would get what I'd get out of a pound of macadamia nuts and 4 avocados. And so my body was saying, hey, this is more efficient usage on my body. It's less wear and tear. I absorb more out of it. My body was communicating with me directly at the time, showing me, hey, you're going to eat all these avocados and all these nuts. The nuts are really hard on me. The nuts were actually more mucus forming than the dairy was.
Wow.
So I did try a lot of things with a lot of different fats, but it was hard for my body to process it and hard for my body to use it and wasn't right for me. And the milk was such a simple food source. It was so simple and so custom tailored, and here eating the same things I am, breathing the same air, drinking the same water, it made the relationship really special for me.
Wow. Well, that's pretty much what dairy is. The goats sit around and eat leaves and greens all day, so you're just getting greens basically secondhand. Jeremy, another thing that's very important to me is your relationship to the goats. If you guys go down to your local health food store or even farmer's market, right, and buy raw goat milk, it's not the same as, having your own goats and nurturing it and having a relationship with it like your pet. Even organic goat farmers, they're in it for one reason. They're in it for a business, for money, and they probably do things with the goats that are probably not in the best interest for the goats. Whereas if you just have a single goat or a couple goats to make your own milk, I think that's much more better. So, Jeremy, how did you rationalize the whole vegan, vegan approach and not having dairy and not having anything like this to now being able to have your own goats and raise it in the most compassionate manner, feeding it off your land, and having like you said, a relationship. I want to really get into that more because I think that's very important, that it's often overglossed. Factory farming and commercial farming is not the same as having your own pets.
Yeah, very, very much so. It was, for me, a lot of it was about compassion. A lot of it was about really being able to care for the creature in a real way, like I would a pet or like a friend. And that was the thing that had originally gotten me to stop eating meat and stop eating dairy, was I was saying, hey, this was being treated for just a commercial reason for somebody to make money. And I grew up in New York City, so it was being shipped all over the place to be sold to people in a store where there was no connection to the creature. So when I had this connection to the creature, it made a difference to me. It was the special thing because she wanted to share with me. Just like any animal wants to give us love and wants to, a dog wants to lick us, or even my dog, he'll sit there and if you get the little burrs on your leg from walking through the forest, the dog picks them all off the leg, off your pants leg and stuff, and will clean you because the dog loves you. So it was to see that I was in a compassionate relationship that was respectful with the animal, and I wasn't asking anything more of it than it wanted to offer to me, made it feel safe and made it feel good and made me feel okay about stepping across that line and eating dairy. And the fact that my body needed it was perfect. It was wow, I'm getting healed by this creature and I'm creating a space that's safe and a home for it and a loving environment that it could live in and it could learn and it could grow in. So being able to be close to the creature and have a compassionate relationship really made such a big difference, and it made it okay for me. It felt all right. In fact, after that I got into bees too, because I could see that I could care for the bees without ever harming them, without ever having to kill any bees, that there was no winter here. I wasn't taking anything from them, but they're extra. And so I got to check that out and be wow, what a great experience. And to me, it's creating no harm. In yoga, they call it ahimsa. For me, it's just about a path of peace, and creating that peaceful interaction, and the compassionate interaction was what I really found with the goat, so I continued it.
Wow, I agree with Jeremy on that. I think we've lost connection to Mother Earth and the creatures on Mother Earth and how to live in harmony instead of trying to have like a narrow focus. Oh, I'm vegan, I can't ever do this, you know. What if you raise your own bees? You know, I started keeping bees this year, and you know, I don't take anything extra from the bees. A lot of beekeepers and a lot of honey absolutely is produced in the very worst way, and a lot of it is actually doctored with corn syrup and who knows what kind of sweeteners. They steal the honey out of the bee hives to sell, then they feed the bees sugar water because they stole all the bees' honey. And you know, I mean, if you guys are vegan, you know, they're using enslaved bees to pollinate almonds and other fruit crops. Like 30% of crops out there need bees to get pollinated, and those aren't usually like free-range bees. They're shipped around, you know, in 18-wheelers from Florida to California when the blossoms are coming, and they're not treating bees very well, in my opinion. But you guys will buy almonds, but you won't have honey. You know, I think the big problem, I think, for me personally, is the system at large and how it's treating the creatures of the earth in an uncompassionate way. And I know the vegans out there can totally identify with this and trying to push people that want to believe about this further to, you know, have their own animals to be the most compassionate. So Jeremy, I want to talk now about, you know, having your own goats, and like, is it hard? Is it difficult? I mean, do they take a lot of care? And you said you had a relationship with the goat, and the goat actually liked to give you its milk. I mean, let's talk about that.
Yeah, my first goat, the one that the guy just showed up here and brought to me, she really cared about me, like as if I was the child that she didn't have, you know, from her baby that had been given away to someone else. She just like took me on and like loved me in that way. So it was like really special to have that. But it takes a lot to care for a lot of goats. When you just have one or two goats, it's actually very easy and very like chill, and you know, goat can make milk for a couple of years. There's even some miracle goats that'll make milk their whole lives, you know. So it's like you know, you keep the goat milking, and then sometimes you have to have it have babies again, so then it turns into a whole bigger thing when you turn into a farmer with that and having to deal with animal husbandry rather than just having a goat that's milking. When I first moved here, there's an island here in Hawaii called Ko'olave, and you can see it on the south side of the island. They actually bombed the whole island in the training for the wars in like the 70s and stuff like that. But before that, it was a goat island. Oh, wow. And you could go there with your boat and go get a milking goat, milk it for a couple years, and when you're done, you bring it back and you just go get another milking goat. And so then there wasn't any having to take care of like babies and deal with breeding and what do we do with the males and, you know, any of the mortality rate or any of that. You just got the goat you needed and you put it back, and it was safe on the island, and it didn't eat your fruit trees, and it all made sense. But it's not that way now. So to take care of goats, if you just have one goat, it can be pretty easy. And if you just freshen it every few years and have a baby that you give away to somebody, or if you decide to expand your herd, then it works out great. But if you're going to try to, you know, expand and let the goats just breed and do their own thing, they'll get out of control eventually and either start breaking out or start eating the fruit trees, your gardens that you care about. So you don't want the goats escaping. You want to be able to keep the goats kind of contained, so that it requires having the right amount of land for it and the right space, or the right management and the right way to move it around. People can even trade a goat and be like, hey, it'll stay at my house for a few days, and then it'll go to this person's house for a week, and then it'll go over there. And if the goat moves around the neighborhood, it stays super healthy, it gets everything that it needs. The people get a little bit of milk here and there when they need it, based on each person's need. You know, someone has a baby and they don't have enough milk they're making, they want to give it to their baby. Oh, perfect, here you go, you have it for a long time until your baby's got enough. You know, some person wants to heal, they get it for a while. So that can work out for people, and then it doesn't out-eat an area if you live in an urban environment. But if you live in the countryside or you have a lot of land, then you just fence in an area and have the goat there. If your goat's well trained and you love the goat and the goat loves you, it'll just stick around. And it usually won't eat your favorite fruit tree. Well, sometimes, you know, but mostly it won't eat your favorite fruit tree. Mostly it'll eat the tea leaves and the banana leaves and the things that you plant as offerings to the goat. Because just like anything else, it's like it wants to have the things that it likes. You plant the things that it likes, it's going to eat those. It's going to eat its favorite foods and probably stay away from your trees. Otherwise, you got to chase it away from your trees. So it takes a little bit of work to have goats. I feed them a little bit of grain and a little bit of alfalfa and stuff, but you can feed them just about anything. Twice a day I do, just to keep them regular. Some people do once, some people do 3 times, but it just keeps them in that pattern, and they recognize sunrise and sunset, so they kind of know when that time is, and they show up. And so it's like a really cool interaction to have with them, you know, and get to like be in that with the goats and be in their like understanding of life and be part of it and be able to care for them just as they care for me.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, last time I was here visiting Jeremy, I come every few years, and I was probably here about 3 years ago, and I tried some of his goat milk after we milked the goats, you know, and okay, I'm not raw vegan anymore either because I had a sample of goat milk from the best goats, fed the best food, totally raw that I pretty much milk myself. And, you know, I got a mucus reaction, so it didn't quite jive with my body. My body was telling me, hey, John, this is not good for you for where you're at, but obviously Jeremy needed it. But, you know, that being said, you know, it didn't work, like, forever with Jeremy because it worked up to a point. So Jeremy, let's get into that now because I don't want people to get goats and have to think they need the goat milk for the rest of their life. Of course, you know, I also want to encourage you guys to always listen to your body because your body knows best what you need. If you listen intensely and closely, you might think you need goat milk, then you drink it and then you feel like crap. Well, then you probably didn't need it. If you drink it and you break out or you get constipated or you get a mucus reaction, you know, those are signs, in my opinion, that your body's telling you that you might not need this foreign substance. You know, I still prefer coconut milk over any kind of goat milk, and one day I'm going to get to try human milk, and I think that's going to be the bomb, especially if the human that's making the milk is being fed a really ultra good diet. And I'll tell you when I try that. But anyways, so Jeremy, tell us more about how it worked for you for a while and then stopped not working.
So the dairy was really helpful for me. I was like repairing my body with it. It felt really good. My spine got all better. I was super happy about it. I actually gained a little bit of weight from it. I gained some muscle mass. I was like staying up longer at night, working out harder, getting a lot stronger, getting more work done. I felt more focused and I felt really peaceful too. So it was a really peaceful state. You know, oftentimes when people get into those kind of like working modes and workout modes, they get really like intense and into their like very yang energy. But I was actually staying very peaceful through the dairy while doing all that. So it was really nice. But then at some point I started having a reaction to it that was really surprising to me because, you know, I work out a lot, I sweat a lot, my body detoxes really well. I'm not used to having, you know, anything. I've had really good skin my whole life, and I started getting these like itchy bumps that I had no idea what they were. And so I started getting these things, and you know, I wondered for a while, and I thought maybe it's because I'm eating a little cacao, and so I stopped eating cacao, and you know, I tried to figure out if it was something else that I was eating or doing. I thought maybe I had a new car, maybe it was the seat that I was sitting on, you know, I was like, maybe it's something I was sitting on because they were on my butt, and I was like, oh gosh, like I'm getting these weird bumps and they itch and they're gone in 24 hours. And I was like, this is really weird that 24 hours these things are gone. So finally I you know, started asking a couple of people. I asked a friend who was a doctor, and he said, oh, those are hives, you know, that you're getting hives, you know. And I was like, wow, well, what do you think? And he said, you know, well, these things are often allergenic, and you know, are you eating any of these things? And you know, almonds and pecans and nuts. So I stopped eating those. And one of the things he'd also mentioned was dairy, but he didn't think that was it. But I wondered if that was it. And so then I was like, I'm going to stop dairy. And I stopped eating dairy and I stopped having hives. And then I started going back to the dairy and I'd get hives. And then I really started experimenting, like, how much dairy can I do, right? So
he was addicted to the morphine, what's in the dairy, that cheese stuff.
So I drink like a little bit, and if I was like about 2 ounces would give me one hive, and it would go away pretty much within an hour or two. If I drank a bunch, if I drank like, you know, a cup or a quart or something like that, I'd get 8 or 10 hives. They'd last all the way almost, you know, 10, 24 hours, 12, 24 hours, and then they would fade away. So I began to see that what it was the dairy, and my body had obviously had enough, you know, and so I stopped. I was like, listen, I gotta stop this for a while. You know, once in a while I'll still eat dairy, and I'll still get a hive from it. So obviously my body hasn't detoxed it all the way. But one thing that I did do is I did 2 water fasts since then. And each time after the water fast, the resulting hive has been much less. Oh, they've been much smaller, so my body's getting back to a point where it could handle it again. Not to say that I'll probably ever go back to eating it, unless I was injured or I had a real reason. I probably won't go back to eating dairy on a regular basis. A few times a year, in the right situation, the right time, sure I will. When the goat first makes milk and it makes the colostrum, sometimes that's like really the right moment. There's like tons of extra colostrum sometimes. I'll drink the milk. If the goat really wants to offer me the milk and I really feel that, I might drink the milk. But like I said, 5 or 10 times a year ends up being about right for me now. You know?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I want to ask people that are hardcore vegans, like, does that make Jeremy a bad person for drinking milk a few times a year now? I mean, I want to just try to remain open and let people know that there's always options out there, and live your life how you would like to live. And of course, I'm sure you guys have opinions about this topic. You could discuss them below the video. Try to keep the comments nice though, because, you know, I also believe pretty much like Jeremy. I mean, if I had a legitimate reason and my body required goat milk, yes, I would keep my own goats, make sure they're fed nicely, totally compassionately, and, you know, drink some goat milk if it was going to heal me. But I would try all other avenues. I mean, one of the things I personally think is one of the things in the goat milk that may be beneficial, that may have been missing, is some of those specific preformed, higher level essential fats like the DHA and the EPA. And I would tend to experiment more with, manufactured oils out of algae. And, on a regular basis or irregular basis, I take some EPA and DHA, just for that reason, because it's so much to do with the nerves and also the brain, which I think is very important. Jeremy, any last comments about this whole topic that you want to, let people know about, that maybe hardcore vegans that are listening to this and they're fuming at the head right now or whatever?
Well, I'd say, as we were talking about earlier, eat what your body really needs and what's right for your body and right for your usage. And to limit ourselves based on a product or a teacher or somebody telling us to eat something or that it's good for us doesn't always make it so. And we have to really explore and experiment for ourselves. And the things that we're drawn to, we need to really listen to our body and listen to our own intuition, especially if it's something that's pure and that the consciousness is high. If the consciousness behind it is high and it's something that really we're drawn to, then usually it's worth checking out and exploring, even if the message needs to be back, yeah, it wasn't for me. But sometimes we're led on those paths for real reasons, and I think that people that limit themselves based on the boxes of societal confines or of dogmas often get themselves trapped, not being able to get the help that they need, not being able to realize or understand the things that they need to because of those limitations, and all limitations are self-imposed. So we need to kind of break those boxes, but still be able to be respectful and honor ourselves, honor nature, honor life, and be able to, go forward and take care of ourselves in the right way.
Wow, I totally agree with that. I always want to encourage you guys to, check in with your body. We're taught to listen to people in authority, listen to YouTube people, listen to whoever wrote the book on this subject, and that's the gospel, right? There's a book called actually the Raw Foods Bible, but everybody's body is a little bit different. You need different things, and if you do, I'm not advocating drinking goat's milk. If you do want to do that, I would highly encourage you to keep your own goats and go through the whole process, because just like I think buying meat that's already prepackaged and you not going through the process of raising your own animals and slaughtering them yourself, that's just bullshit. You guys shouldn't be doing that. And the other thing that I also think, very strongly about is that, what would we eat in nature? We wouldn't have tons of meat or tons of dairy. We would probably have those in small amounts, and our primary diet would be, greens and fruits. And I want to encourage you guys, if you do experiment with these, more concentrated foods that dairy and, meats are, to do them in small amounts, but still eat plenty of fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. My goal, and I'll put this out there, is not to convert everybody in the world to 100% vegan, right? I think that would be great and it'd be wonderful, but I honestly believe that's not going to happen anytime soon. My goal is to convert 100% of the world to 85 to 90% vegan, because at that point, it's like having just 10% of the world 100% vegan, right? Because there's going to be a lot more massive change, and trying to think out of the box and being a bit more relaxed about this, and making sure that animals are taken care of, and not just buying commercial dairy or commercial meats, but raise them yourself if that's what you choose to do, and go through the whole process, so that you have to kill your own animals. And I would never do that myself.
Yeah, me neither.
But if you're going to do that, that's the best way to do it. And I would hope and pray that people wouldn't be able to do that, because I could just never take another life for me to live, because I know I've lived on, a plant-based diet for nearly 20 years now without having to eat any kind of meat. And yes, I have experimented with the dairy, a few times, and it didn't agree with me. So that's pretty much the takeaway message. Listen to your bodies and don't just automatically rule out things because they may be able to help you. So last question for Jeremy. Going forward, what does your diet look like today, to let everybody know, how a 22-year, raw, for the most part, vegan, predominantly is eating a healthy diet and lifestyle?
Well, my diet today pretty much involves things that I really feel are special and sacred if I'm drawn in the right moment to it. I love fruit. I love fruit in a huge way. It's a fruit that I can carry with me, especially it comes with its own packaging. It's biodegradable. It's easy to take with you away from the plant. It doesn't always require refrigeration, so I'm a big fruit eater. Right now we're in the prickly pear season. I'm a big fan of the panini, the prickly pear. We have a lot of cherimoya here right now. We have a lot of Rellenia. So those are great things. I love picking those and having those. The Inga, the ice cream bean. I'm still a huge wheatgrass fan. First thing every day, I still love wheatgrass. And so I still drink a fair amount of wheatgrass. I've explored cooked food a little bit in the last couple of years after 20 years of being a raw foodist. So I've checked out some of that, and again, I enjoy that a little bit here and there, and I've learned a lot from doing it. And I prefer being all raw. It's easier for me. It's where I gravitate towards. I pick a lot of things, a lot of seasons here. There's so much abundance of fruit that that's all I could think to eat because it's what's around me. And so yeah, going forward, I really am just going to listen to my body, do what I know is right, not try to judge myself, because I found that the psychological side of it just got to be too heavy after so many years. I just wanted to be able to like love myself and nurture myself, and I found that I do that with the fruit and with the food and with growing things in my garden and with those things that I really relate to in that special way. And so I stick to a lot of fruit, a lot of vegetables, but yeah, even I'll grow squash and I'll bake the squash, or the breadfruit, I'll harvest the breadfruit and we'll bake that in the coals of the fire. And again, for me, it's so much more natural than something I could buy in a supermarket. And yeah, I may have to cook it, but there's something special about that breadfruit that it like came to me from the tree right to me. So that's what I like going forward doing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing the 99.999% raw foods for, nearly 20 years now, and that's working for me, and I still love Jeremy, what's working for him, and I want to encourage you guys out there to eat as much plant foods as you can. I think that's far better than anything else. I don't necessarily teach you guys out there to be 100% raw, but eat as much fresh fruits and vegetables as you can. If there's anything you got from this, Jeremy did small amounts of dairy and still large amounts the majority of his diet was still fresh fruits and vegetables after, all these years, and it's working for him.
Oh yeah.
So Jeremy, if somebody wants to learn more about you and your important work, because, I know you're pretty much involved in your homestead, 30 acres of farming, you're expanding new like areas and got new fruit trees every time I show up, and too bad there's no fruit in season yet, although I'm gonna get some good turmeric and yacon in this trip. But how can they contact you to learn more about your work? I know you wrote a book and stuff. It's really a good book actually on raw foods.
Yeah, you can find me at jeremysaffron.com, and you can also find me on Facebook as Jeremy Saffron. That's JeremySaffron. And then Avalau Farm is the name of the farm here, so people want to check out the farm. We have a woofing program, and people can come and visit and stay and learn more about farming that way. And my book, The Raw Truth, and Dining from an Empty Bowl, the Fasting Handbook, are still out there and available. They're now from Random House, but still can get copies of them. Cool. So, yeah.
I mean, he wrote a book on fasting, so yes, he tried fasting when he hurt his back. I mean,
oh yeah.
For the hardcore natural hygiene people out there, Jonas. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, are a little bit more open about different topics, and trying to get you guys to think out of the box, be more open to possibilities. When done properly, I will never advocate any kind of farm-raised animal products. If you want to do it yourself. And nowadays I'm not even really advocating farm-raised fruits and vegetables. I want you guys to grow them yourself. So if you're not starting to do that like Jeremy is, like I am, check out my growingyourgreens.com or Growing Your Greens YouTube channel. I have over 1,000 videos now on how you can start growing your own foods. Yes, even if you live in the middle of New York City in an apartment in the wintertime, you can grow sprouts and microgreens inside like Ann Wigmore did back in the day, which was one of Jeremy's teachers there. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best. All right, this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and I'm coming at you from the bathroom to share with you guys one of my most important things you guys should be doing in the bathroom. Go into the bathroom properly. Actually, just kidding. I already have a video on that. I'll put a link down below.